Okay, the Euler-Eytelwein formula, the Kaplan formula for tensioned belts and pulleys, is the Elastica of the planet. Simply draw a sphere of the planet in your mind, section it, look at the cross section of the spherical planet, and draw a line down from the surface somewhere, dotted line, the Elastica. It's the difference between tension and bending. So if you have a beam, move in, you've drawn the planet, you've drawn an Elastica line, zoom in and just take a section of it and draw it as a straight line. Now you know that's got a curve in it, but you've taken a short section, so to all intents and purposes it's straight. Look at it. What's happening is it's not being loaded from the top like a beam of a construction of a building where the distributed and live loads are on the top. This is coming from the bottom, and so it's bending, so the tension is on the surface and the compression is being taken in the bottom section. So you've got a beam, Elastica through the middle, about which the rotation, the bending occurs, and you've got bending on the bottom and tension on the top, and you're standing on the top, of course, because it's the surface of the planet. Okay, can you see that simple model of the beam? Now look at Madrid Codex, Leonardo da Vinci, 1970 I think it was discovered and certainly unearthed. There's a picture of a beam straight and a beam bent. And now he's saying what is the bending referencing, and the bent beam references the center of the circle that it would create, the theoretical circle that it would create, references the center. Aha, so we can take that idea from the Madrid Codex, go back to the Elastica, and say, well, there it is, there's the whole complete thing, so that you can take a segment with the beam at the top, Elastica, and it makes absolute sense that the center of bending is the center is what's created. And so it's not outside the mass. Yeah, the meter 4 center of bending of a sphere isn't outside the mass, it is the mass. The mass is created at the center of bending, and then it's expressed at the surface now as a balance between tension and bending. So now the Elastica is variable, of course, and you can assess and analyze it using the Euler-Eytelwein formula for tension belts. Okay, so now you've got a model of a planet, and you've got an Elastica, a single line running through it. Okay? Now, how does that work? How can we do an experiment to test this? What I'm saying is that Elastica can be any thickness, depending on the solution in which the Elastica finds itself. If it finds itself in solid rock, it'll be a line that doesn't exist. It'll just be a boundary zone. There'll be bending, and then there'll just be tension. Can you see? The transfer of bending to tension will take place at a frame of reference through the center that doesn't exist, rock. If it takes place in water, it'll take place from the top of the water to the bottom of the water. The Elastica has the thickness of the water, so that water is the Elastica expressing itself as a thicker surface, because it's the recursive thickness, recursive depth that is key. If you can keep the depth critical flow between laminar and turbulent, the recursive depth represents critical flow thickness. So in water, you've created a really thick surface, and inside that surface, of course, life will exist, because it's bending moments from the outside of the universe expressing themselves here at the center, as shown by Da Vinci's bending beam. The bending of the outside of our sphere of influence, the cosmic microwave background, is what creates the bending here. And that sphere is so massive, it thinks it's flat. If you took any section, take any area of the cosmic microwave background and analyze it, you'd find it's flat. You have to analyze it from the center to realize it's got bending. You have to remember it has bending. So let's look at the sand now from Action Lab, because this is how you can test the strength of the Elastica and how it works and why it's negative Poisson's ratio, where the strain response creates a vacuum energy increase, cavitation as the force turns inside out. So that water now on the beach is in sand. There are layers. It's just take a section of sand as a homogeneous beam of sand. It's wet, totally 100% solvent. It's the word, I can't remember. 100% wet, and the sand is heavier, has greater mass than the water, so it sinks. So you've got a stable bed of aggregate that's sitting there. It's not floating, is it? It's got to have settled, and it's only the motion that might unsettle the top layers of the aggregate if they're not concrete aggregate interlocked. So I think that's what you'll see. It's like snow and ice. Imagine that the top layer of the sand is firm, snow, and then underneath that there is ice with the cavitation, so you've got a stable layer. When you compress now the firm sand, that wavy, that layer that we're imagining is slightly moving with the motion of the water above it, it immediately compresses, aggregate interlock occurs. Because that aggregate interlock is set, ready to go, it's just, just the motion is so tiny. As soon as you compress it, aggregate interlock occurs and you've got a solid surface. It's underneath, it's a bulb, like a bowl shape. You'll have created a hemisphere under your foot. The bottom of that will be sitting on top of the water. You've just created a new Elastica. Has been created. You've inverted the Elastica surface by compressing the top. So the elastic strain response has gone negative, and that the Elastica, you've created one under the bowl of your foot. So that surface there, that force is inverted. The force has. And so now that the sand, all that bowl that you have in the sand, the water is now, all that surface is now inverted. So it's dry. There's no water there. It's all just turned into negative space as a strain response, and you've increased the CBR, the bearing ratio of that surface has been created. It's stronger. The whole bowl is stronger because you've increased the stress, and so the elastic strain response is greater in sand, water, Elastica. Okay, so this is Euler and Eytelwein formulas. Now, you're just taking that idea. You're proving that that's true, that engineers lie. If Action Lab has got information from engineering that told him that was what was happening about the shear force flow, he's been lied to, he's been bullshitted, and he'll be cross. So we need the proper information, because the proper information links us through to the classified physics of Dr. Euler-Eytelwein and atomic physics and the Manhattan Project 1942 and the 1993 document by the Portland Cement Association, circular concrete tanks without pre-station. It's all there, humanity. Simple proof from an experiment by walking on the beach with bare feet. Take that bowl under your foot and place it as a sphere at the center. Imagine the pressure that your foot is creating on the sand as encapsulating the whole of the sphere at the center of the planet. Replace the sand, the chips of sand, with water, with chips of ice. Compress those chips of ice together. See the negative Poisson's ratio effect of strength with nowhere to go. It creates a force field of a perfect sphere around it. And that creates a film of water around that chip of ice. And that ice is then a free-floating bearing at the center of the universe. And that's how we overcome gimbal lock. And so the shape of that force field is critical, and it should be perfectly spherical. H bar is our targets, but it's H bar, polar, Archimedean, pi elastic, and equatorial, H bar, pi natural, 3.144, that one. And pi reals on the inside. So the Euler-Eytelwein formula requires you to know that what exists, if nothing else exists, the ratio exists between the inside and the outside surface of a hollow sphere. So if a bubble exists, Its inside surface will be pi real, its outside surface will be pi natural. That's the ratio balance. And because that ratio exists, something else exists. Water exists clinging to the inside of that sphere. And so the inside of that sphere is a bit smaller, and that's Archimedean pi, pi elastic. But that pi pulses because the ratio between pi natural and pi real is unstable. And then stable. It's stable, unstable, stable, unstable, stable, unstable. Recursive, reflective, recursive, reflective. And the depth of the recursion depends on how much awareness you bring to it. This is the truth about the power of now. The rigid body instant. The instant lasts no measurable time at all. And therefore any extension that you apply to that will be massive in terms of impact and what it does to your life. So that by bringing awareness to the moment of time in which you exist, there is energy there, power. By bringing knowledge and wisdom that we now have to that moment as well, you find your vibrational level will be so tuned in that your Elastica will be singing sweetly, and your bearing will be singing sweetly in your heart, here at the base of your heart. There. Right there, the base of your heart, the fixed point. Leonardo da Vinci proves it to you. Settle your heart. Rebellion in your heart right now, make it love. As each person sings their heart, the planet bearing begins to sing more sweetly. As we all do it, watch what happens. Watch what happens. Already proven, my friends. Already proven. Wake up. You're back in a room. Follow the Rebel King.